up, mate. Got cake, mate. Got cheese, mate. Got bread, mate.
All right, we're a couple days away from the Sweet 16. Let's jump into these games. The spreads are about right where I like them. After they open, I let them simmer a couple days, but now Tuesday, what do we got? 6 o'clock p.m. Tuesday. So these lines are right where I like them, and I think they're at a perfect spot. And I think for the most part, the line movement's over. So let's go ahead and jump into one of the first games, and it's the first game, 6 o'clock on Thursday. Clemson Tigers against Arizona Wildcats. Wildcats favored by 7.5 points. This line seems about right for me. For the most part, let's think about it this way. Dayton played Arizona. Arizona's favored by 10. It got down to 9. So a point and a half, 2 points here. And I like Clemson. I like the way Clemson's been playing. I faded them against Baylor. Main reason being I didn't think Clemson was going to hit, 50% from the 3 point line again, but they kind of did. At least in the first half. I don't think they made any 3 pointers in the second half, but Clemson's defense is what was key here. And Arizona struggled when Dayton played a full court press, pressuring their guards. And it forced a lot of turnovers, and it did not let Arizona have basically wide open 3 pointers anymore. So by playing a full court style or half court trap, it kind of forced Arizona to at least go inside to where Dayton could give them difficult shots. And I think Clemson will do the same thing here. They're a defensive team, they're a veteran team, and they also like to rebound and they can play tough. So they have veteran players, and if Clemson can play that tough defense that they played against Baylor, they should be able to do the same thing. And I think they have a really good chance to upset Arizona here because of their style of play. If they could hit some 3 pointers like they have been doing, I don't know if they will be able to. But for me, is Clemson's defense is what's key here. So if they're able to speed up Arizona, force them to make turnovers, I think they'll have success, especially if they could defend and rebound. It took Dayton about 10, what was it, about 10, 15 minutes too late before they figured out how to play defense against Arizona. In which at that point they were down like 17 points. They cut it to 10 at halftime. So it was already too late for them. So if Clemson could to get their defense set at the beginning of the game and make some threes on offense, which I think they will. Gerard hasn't even heated up yet. I don't PJ Hall hasn't played great. It's mainly been Shefflin and their other point guard. I can't think of his name, but I really like the way Clemson's been playing because they've been playing using their veteran team, veteran guards, shooting the three and playing defense. Mainly their defense. I like Clemson getting 7.5 points here, and I think this is the time where Arizona finally gets knocked out here. So I also like Clemson to win this game outright because their defense. If their 3 pointers not falling and they're shooting, 20% from three, then they probably won't win. But we're kind of hoping that they're going to still at least make some of their 3 pointers enough to keep the game close, and their defense does the rest to get the win. So I like Clemson taking the point 7.5 and also winning this game outright. The next game is a rematch of the national championship from last year. So we'll have the San Diego State Aztecs against the Yukon Huskies. Huskies favored by 11 points. And when this was the national championship last year, I made this line about 9 points. I think I'm not sure if Yukon ended up winning by what was it? Maybe like 15, 17 points, I want to say 13, 15 points. But UConn had a great game offensively, defensively. They kind of played around at the end of the game. San Diego caught up, but for the most part, UConn had control of the game. I feel like this San Diego State team is better than it was last year. They're much better offensively. And at this point, I really wouldn't recommend fading, UConn. I know you're getting double digits. I know UConn's a big favorite, but they're a big favorite for a reason in all these games. They've been covering every game. But San Diego State, man, this Jaden Ledee, this kid, I don't know how he didn't sniff the floor for any team for the past 3-4 years. He's playing today like an All American and a top NBA draft pick because he could do everything with his body. He could shoot the ball. He could play defense, rebound. he gets a tough whistle, gets a friendly whistle. So the way that the refs officiate him is a little weird, but I have a feeling they're going to let both of these teams play, and that'll definitely help San Diego State. But man, I think UConn's just too much. They're too deep. They're just a machine right now. Personally, I would probably just take the points with the Aztecs just because of the way that they've improved. I think this game will end up being like an 8 or 9 point game. I think San Diego State could definitely play with UConn because of their defense, and they have enough offense if they could make their threes. And that's what happens against UConn. Teams don't make their 3 pointers, and that's because of their great defense, and they switch everything. They play every position, but that's exactly how San Diego State plays. They switch everything. 1 through 5, they all play each other's positions. They can play each other's positions, defend each other's positions. So I think that's what gives San Diego State the edge. In my opinion, I like the Aztecs getting double digits, but UConn laying the points with UConn, I totally get it. I just think that this team's improved, and my number is still like it was last year, around 9 points, 9.5 points. So getting 11, I would probably take San Diego State, and this should be a really great game. I hope the refs let them play, which I imagine they would. Um, but yeah, like I said, I think this will be an 8 or 9 point win for UConn, and I like San Diego State. I think UConn's getting a little bit too much respect here, and not enough for San Diego State, especially in a revenge kind of factor, revenge angle. On last year's national championship, and if San Diego State can win this game, they could win it. They can win the rest of the tournament. So I like getting the double digits here. Can San Diego State win outright? Of course, they have a shot to do it because it's a rematch, and it's two really great teams, and they play defense. So I'll definitely take the points here with the Aztecs, and what I think is going to be a great game. And we'll just see how it plays out. But like I said, I like their defense, the way they can switch. They've improved offensively, huge difference compared to last season. So I think that's the main difference. All right, next game, Alabama Crimson Tide against the North Carolina Tar Heels. This will be an action-packed game. If we get a boring Clemson Arizona game, I think this one's going to light it up because Alabama knows one thing, NATO knows one thing, and that's run and gun. Let it loose, and if we make our threes, we have a chance to win. If we miss our threes, well, we'll go down swinging and shoot more 3 pointers to try to catch up. And that's just the NATO's way. But the thing is here, they had some trouble with that Grand Canyon defense. And I think North Carolina, if they finally play some defense, I love the way they looked against Michigan State. I thought Michigan State was going to have a better game with their guards, but their shots weren't falling. And offensively, they were nowhere near North Carolina. Here, Marcus Sears has been great. Alabama's been playing great, but this North Carolina team can play, and the fact that this spread is at a 4, it keeps teetering between 4.5 and 4, 4.5, 4. Um, like I mentioned last week, these 4.5 spreads, it's either the dog wins outright or it's a blowout. And all the 4.5 spreads except for one last weekend, they all won outright. Utah State beat TCU. Clemson, they beat Baylor. The only one was Colorado covered against Marquette, which Marquette probably should have covered that game, but Colorado covered, and there was another 4.5 game that the dog covered. I can't think of it right now, but for me at 4, I think this game will settle at 4. By the time it gets a tip, actually it may settle at North Carolina 4.5. People are buying that, not buying it, but playing that Alabama with that 4.5. But Alabama's lack of defense, one of the worst defenses in the country, and they don't have as much rebounding as North Carolina. If Carolina can stay out of foul trouble, I like them to roll on the Tide here. They're just too good offensively. They have veteran players all over the place. Alabama, basically, you stop Marcus Sears, you stop Alabama. So we'll see what happens. But North Carolina, I think, is a much better team, and Alabama's not in that class yet. But like I said, they're gonna run and gun, and they're gonna shoot like hell to stay in this game. But I do like the Tar Heels here, laying 4.5. The 4.5, like I said, 4.5 is always tricky, but I'm laying it with the Tar Heels. I do not think Alabama can keep up defensively enough in this game to keep it close. So I like the Tar Heels. All right, the final game on Thursday night, Illinois Fighting Illini against Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State's favored by 1.5. and it's been 2, 1.5. Not very much line movement on this game at all. Basically, offense against defense. Illinois' offense against Iowa State's defense. Illinois doesn't play very much defense. They play offense, they rebound, and try to outscore teams. And that happened in the Morehead State game. Morehead State wasn't deep at all. Their players got gassed. Illinois was able to grind them down. In the second round, Illinois took advantage of a smaller Duquesne team coming off a huge win. So Illinois took control. So I wasn't too surprised there, even though I had Duquesne. I thought Duquesne would play better defense, just the miracle story, blah, blah, blah. But Illinois is locked in. This Illinois team is really good. But this is going to be the best team they've played all season. And I wouldn't say vice versa for Iowa State, but this is going to be a very good offensive team Iowa State's going to play. And like I said, if Iowa State can make their 3 pointers, they didn't really do that great of a job against Washington State. But if they do it here, they'll find success. Right now, 1.5, 2. I would say I had this game as a pick 'em, but because of how good Iowa State is at defense and rebounding, I have to side with the Cyclones here. When it gets to all the upsets, all the hoop, I don't know, all the bullshit, Cinderella stuff, it's all over. We're done with that. Get it out, throw it out. The best teams will win this weekend, and you win that with defense, rebounding, and you got to make your shots in clutch situations. Iowa State did that against Washington State last weekend, and Illinois did it when they needed to against Morehead State. Terrence Shannon Jr. is playing like one of the best players in the country, which he is, but he's playing at that level right now. But for me, it's all about defense and rebounding, and I don't know if Illinois will be able to do that for 40 minutes against Iowa State. Iowa State might be able to grind this defense down. They have the size in the paint to stop the driving, the paint points. So that's where and why I side with Iowa State here is because their defense, rebounding, and paint presence. But anything can happen with Terrence Shannon Jr. the way he's playing right now. I just prefer defensive team. Illinois' defense is almost non-existent at this point, and they proved that against Morehead State. They just outshot them, outran them, outplayed them for 40 minutes, and they grinded them down. They won't be able to do that against Iowa State. I prefer their defense. Give me the short number with the Cyclones. All right, let's move on to Friday's games. And we start with a great game, and that's going to be North Carolina State versus Marquette Golden Eagles. Marquette was favored by 7 points. Now it's down to 6.5. And I believe North Carolina State's taking money. So I think this line will settle at 6. My number was 6.5 with North Carolina State. And we know Marquette is a very great offensive team. Their defense has been okay. They were kind of hit and miss against Colorado. They got their stops when they needed to eventually. And North Carolina State, they dominated Texas Tech. They dominated Oakland, but Oakland, I mean, we know the Oakland story. They just shoot threes, and they miraculously made their 3 pointers, 50% of them, but they didn't win. And what does Marquette love to do? They love to jack the three. And Tyler Kolek's been playing great. He had a great game against Colorado. Just the guard play and ball handling from Marquette all the way around. I'm very impressed with Marquette. And their problem is rebounds. So North Carolina State, they should be able to get some rebounds. They will have a big post presence, especially if they go with the big lineup. With Burns and Middlebrooks. But with Iguodaro mainly being their size, I think they'll just have one big guy out there, Burns, and then sub him in with Middlebrooks, and that way they can stay rested enough. Because Marquette rolls with a very small lineup, four wings, and Iguodaro in the post. But this is a tough game. Like I said, I made the game 6.5, but I really think Marquette's like playing really good right now. But I wouldn't lay a 6.5 because of Marquette's one. Their turnovers were an issue last game. Colorado probably, I don't know. Colorado got hot on the 3 point line. I don't think they should have won the game. Marquette played a pretty strong game for 40 minutes. I think they had pretty decent defense, but Colorado just making ridiculous shots in the second half. So I wouldn't say Marquette should have lost. No. But this game's going to be close. I think this line closes at 6. if I wouldn't be surprised if money comes in and this line closes at 7. But like I said, 6.5, 7 points. I have to go with North Carolina State because they'll be able to play defense and rebound, create more opportunities for their offense. And just it's the same old story here. If North Carolina can make their threes, they'll be in this game. Can Marquette make their threes for 40 minutes? We'll see. But which team's going to play defense and rebound? That team's going to win and cover this game. I like North Carolina State getting the points. I made my number 6.5. I'm going to stick by that. So as long as it's 6.5, 7, I like North Carolina State. If it gets down to 6, that's when I'll start thinking about Marquette. But because of the way Marquette ended the Colorado game and their lack of rebounding and size, I still favor North Carolina State here. I do not like their lack of rebounding, late game situations. Shaka Smart, I don't know. The jury for me is still out on Shaka, but he's a great team builder, and that's what he has here. So I think that's where I'm sticking with, and I'm gonna go 6.5, 7, or 6. But I think this will stay at 6.5. To be honest with you, and I like North Carolina State because their defense, rebounding, whoever can make their threes, whoever can play hard for 40 minutes will win this game. First team to get gassed, they'll lose, just like what happened in the Colorado game. All right, next game, Friday, Gonzaga Bulldogs against the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue favored by 5.5. Um, yeah, I hate Purdue. Zach Edey, the way that the games are officiated, they're not called square. I don't care how big he is. They're just not called square. I don't care what anybody says. Pretty much the only people who like Edey and Purdue are basically Purdue fans. I don't get it. Whether he's good or not doesn't matter. The way the game's officiated, the other team doesn't have any is already handicapped. So the other team's already playing 5-on-4, and Utah State, that game was ridiculous because of their bigs picking up all three of their bigs picked up 2 fouls in like the first 5-10 minutes. And once that happened, they went on like a 20-2 run, and the game was over. um, to be honest with you, I'm not going to bet on this game because it's infuriating watching Purdue just get dog walked, walk to the free throw stripe like almost every possession. And it's always over the back. Edie travels every other play when he uses his pivot foot. Like I said, I don't care whether he's good or not. It's the way the game's officiated, and it's not called square both ways, right? He's going over the back. He's traveling. None of that's being called, and they'll call if you like breathe it on him, you touch him. They're calling a foul on you. The game's just not called square. I can't wait till he's out of college basketball because it's just ridiculous, the officiating. So I probably won't bet on this game. I like Gonzaga. I think if the game's called square, which will be almost impossible, I like Gonzaga. I like Gonzaga getting the points, and I think they can win with their offense. They have good enough defense with their guards and wings, and strong guard play as well with Nimhard. But if Ike can do his best against Zach Edey, and like I said, it all depends if the game is called square. I've talked about this all season long. You could bet against Purdue, but always know that you always have to assume Purdue's getting 40 to 50 free throws, and that's no hyperbole right there. You always have to assume that's what they're getting. So betting on Purdue, I don't even blame you because you already know you got 40 or 50 free throws in your back pocket, and you're already getting spotted free throws, right? So it's already the spread should be minus like 30 or something with Purdue. So I probably won't bet on this game. Like I said, infuriating. If it's called square, Gonzaga will win, but there's no chance in that happening. So next game, Duke Blue Devils against the Houston Cougars. Houston's laying 4 points. All right, so this is what happened last year. Almost the exact same scenario with the exact same players. So last year, Duke looked amazing the first 2 rounds. The offense was clicking, firing on all cylinders. But like I said, once you get into the Sweet 16, Elite 8, that's when the real basketball starts. And last season, they played against a rough, and tough Tennessee team. And Tennessee kicked the shit out of Duke and their little freshmen. The same little freshmen are playing again for the most part. Filipowski, Proctor, um, and you got Jeremy Roach, and I think there's another one. But for the most part, like that's where they're at right now. I expect Houston to be very rough and physical. I'm glad Houston made it out of round of 32 after the referees walked A&M to 45 fucking free throws. Are you serious? I mean, that crime, that game was a crime, officiating crime, to be honest with you. And those three refs, I don't know where they are, but they are coaching or they are officiating in the Sweet 16 and beyond. At least the Sweet 16 from what I saw the chart the other night. So who knows if they're on the same crew or not, but it's ridiculous. Houston wasn't allowed to do anything. A&M was allowed to do whatever they wanted, and that's how embarrassing that loss is for A&M because they scored 95 points shooting 35%. Like that's ridiculous. For reference, Duke scored like 93 points and shot 55%. That, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And A&M lost. I mean, anyway, Houston, we know what we're getting from Houston. Great defense, great rebounding, and their 3-point shooting is very hot right now. Again, we'll see how this game's officiated, but if they swallow the whistle like they did last year, Duke, Tennessee, I like Houston here. Even if they call the game, I really like Houston. I like their aggressiveness. Duke is the exact opposite. I think these Duke elitists, they're going down against a tougher Houston team, and you know, uh, Duke got a pretty easy run here, which they don't choose it. That's fine. I get all that, and that's not a problem. But it's a huge step up compared to Vermont, James Madison. Now they got to play Houston, one of the top three teams in the country all season. So I think Houston's just too much here with their veteran guard play. Like I said, Duke struggled against a veteran Tennessee team last year. I expect the same thing to happen this year. I don't think these guys got tougher. They got a year older, but we'll see what happens. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. I like Houston laying 4 points. This keeps teetering from 4.5. But I like Houston for all those reasons: toughness, rebounding. They're shooting the three. They're playing really good basketball right now. So is Duke, but like I said, it was against different competition, and this is going to be a different physical game. We'll see how it's officiated in the paint, but I really like Houston in this game because of those reasons. Last but not least, another great game. I think we're capping this one off with a good one. And that's the Creighton Blue Jays against the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee's favored by 3 points. It's pretty much sat three for the past couple of days. I haven't seen it moved. My big thing here is Creighton, by just a miracle, Creighton advanced to the next round. They could not stop Dante in the post. They could not rebound. Cockbrenner is always a great player when he's going against 6'5" guys in the paint. Dante was able to match up with them. Had a great game. Oregon's problem was their point guard got injured, and they had other injuries to where they only had three guys score the entire second half, quite literally. So that's not going to be the issue with Tennessee. Tennessee is very healthy right now. They have Connect, they got Zakai Ziegler, they got Stefanovic, and they've got their Adu in the post. They got a great post players. I think Creighton. I don't think Creighton's going to get lucky again. Tennessee escaped Texas. I think Texas was the better team. They just couldn't put it together for 40 minutes, which that's what it's all about. Tennessee advances. And I think Tennessee in their defense, again, rough, tough. Creighton can play rough and tough because they play in the Big East, so they're used to that. But the thing is, I don't think they're going to get that fortunate again. And I just don't see it happening. It usually doesn't happen twice. Usually, when you get a free pass, you don't get another one. Houston was, I don't consider Houston a free pass because literally the refs tried to do everything to get A&M the win, or definitely the cover. Definitely the cover. The win, I mean, the free throw shooting, there's really no excuse. But I think Tennessee's size and their athleticism is going to give Creighton an issue. This line hasn't moved. I like Tennessee laying the points for those reasons. Their defense, their rebounding, and they can score the basketball. And they have more players that can score than Oregon's two players. So I think they're just going to give Creighton a tough time. Crayon, of course, if Crayon makes, 60, 55% of their three pointers, they always have a chance. But that's what I think is going to happen. Tennessee is going to be too much for Creighton, and that's what I like. That's what I like here. I like all these games. I really like the lines. I really like the spreads in each of these games. And like I said, there's gonna be a couple of tricky ones like the Yukon game, Yukon, and then the Marquette game, the Purdue game, and Houston. We'll see, but there's a couple of tricky ones. But for the most part, I like where these lines are, and I think I like where the market has been going up and down. So where these spreads are gonna sit, that's kind of where I like them, and I'm gonna get these punched in and made official. And appreciate y'all for watching. Follow for more, and let's see how we do this Sweet 16. All right, later.